So this is Jean-Claude, and he's asked Jackson and I to build him a house. Now, he's asked us because he saw us building Lego on television, and he probably thinks we're up for the job. So why don't we build him one?
Everybody knows what Lego is, right? It's a modular building system of plastic bricks designed and manufactured by a group of very clever people over in Denmark. Every piece is designed meticulously within a rigid set of rules, and it's these rules that help ensure everything fits together perfectly.
Now, these rules are fantastic when you're building with brand new Lego and you've got all of the pieces. But if you're trying to build something a little bit different, or you're maybe missing a piece, those rules very quickly start to feel like constraints.
And when you're doing anything in a system bound by constraints, you're probably going to run into obstacles at some point. This can be challenging or frustrating, but often we just have to learn to work within constraints. For Alex and I, working with these tiny plastic people has taught us a few lessons about dealing with constraints, both in Lego and in life. So let's get down to it. Let's build Jean-Claude's house. Construction begins. The slab goes down. We've laid a few bricks. Door is installed. And bam! We hit our first obstacle. We don't actually have a window piece. Lego make an array of window pieces, all of which would be perfectly suited for this job. But unfortunately, we just don't have any.
So this missing window piece is a dilemma, and it represents our first problem when you're working with constraints. You know the piece you need, and it exists, but you don't have access to it. Now, obviously, you could go out and get it, but if you can't for whatever reason, what do you do next?
Let's begin by considering a window. What is a window? It's an opening in a wall that you can see through. At its very most basic, that's all it is. Jean-Claude has expressed to us that he would like to be able to wave to his neighbours as they stroll by from his kitchen and admire the dappled shade filtering through the apple orchard that he'll plant in years to come.
We wouldn't want to stop him doing that. So, we need to find him a window so we're not building him some sort of box of isolation. We do have a bunch of other pieces available to us. So perhaps there's something in there that we could repurpose and it could become a window. It's helpful sometimes to look somewhere a bit silly. So maybe, for instance, we could use this tree as a window.
And as everybody can see, this tree will make a terrible window. What else have we got?
Get rid of it. Yeah. All right, fair. That was ridiculous. Windows are sometimes square, so maybe we could use a more square piece, like maybe this cupboard.
It's definitely coming a bit closer to that conventional square window frame shape. And this little door could make a pretty nice shutter. But there's one big problem with this piece. You can't see through it.
Yeah, get rid of it. That's a critical part of a window. Well, Jean-Claude has left his car in the driveway. He's a fancy guy. He's got a fancy car, all right? Maybe there's something in there that we could pinch to turn into a window. Well, look at these wheel arches, the yellow ones. Sometimes windows are arched, right? So maybe we could use those wheel arches as windows.
We've definitely deviated from that conventional square shape a bit, but it's still going to make a nice opening for Jean-Claude to look through. So let's roll with that.
Yeah, it's great. They look brilliant. And when you first looked at those wheel arches, you probably didn't see windows. But when we took them out of the context of the car and we placed them in the context of the house, they became windows, and beautiful arched ones like the ones Jean-Claude might have seen in his youth in the south of France.
And so with that, we've solved our first problem. We were missing a piece, and we thought that might stop us. But that constraint of the missing piece actually forced us to look elsewhere, and in doing so, we were able to generate a novel solution.
Great. So construction resumes. We've got the windows in. We're working upwards towards the roof, and that's when we run into our second problem. Jean-Claude, the particular kind of guy that he is, has asked for roof tiles. But unfortunately for Jean-Claude and for us, Lego don't even make a roof tile piece. So what do we do next?
And this presents the second obstacle. It's going to make it really difficult for us to deliver Jean-Claude the tiled roof that he has always dreamed of. And while we're figuring this one out, JC heads off to the Great Barrier Reef for his annual scuba diving trip.
So we're stuck. The piece, it doesn't exist. So what are we going to do? Well, Jean-Claude's not being particularly helpful, and he's sending us pictures from his trip. Here he is sipping cocktails down by the beach. He looks very relaxed, if I do say so. And here he is, oh look, scuba diving.
That's fantastic. Exactly what we need. More plastic in the ocean. However, there is something useful in this image. His flippers. We could take his flippers, flip them around, and make a real nice roof tile out of them.
So that time, the situation felt a lot scarier because the piece we needed, it didn't even exist in the system we were working in. But we looked around us at what was available, and we found something that we could repurpose and fill that gap.
So now that the roof is done, construction on the main house is complete, and it's all wrapped up, and the landscaping is underway. And by this point, Alex and I would like to do something really special for our new friend, Jake Law. He's been pretty good to us. We've really enjoyed working on this project, and we'd like to create something unique, something that's really going to stand out on his street. His neighborhood is full of pretty boring suburban-style dwellings, houses with all the exact same white picket fence, kind of like this one.
Oh, how boring.
So boring.
Yeah. Well, up until this point, when we've been missing a piece, we've had to replace it with something else. And what we've come up with has been something that we actually liked more. So this time, we're going to choose to replace a piece that we do have access to. Just get rid of it. And we're going to replace it with something as a way of injecting our own creativity and personality into the project.
So again, let's look around at us for what we might have on hand for inspiration. Alex and I find ourselves rummaging through Jean-Claude's old holiday snaps. And we came across this particularly compelling image of him tearing down the slopes of the French Alps on a set of skis. And you might know where we're heading with this. Last time we used his flippers. This time, we're going to use his skis. We can use the skis to mimic the shape of the traditional white picket fence, but the color and the size are dramatically different. And so in using these, we've created something pretty unique, a bit weird, and something that probably hasn't been seen in his sleepy little neighborhood before. So in each of these three situations, the conditions we faced were different, but the approach that we employed was the same. Rather than getting hung up on what we didn't have, we took a breath, took stock of what we did have, and viewed it in a new way, which allowed us to be open to making new connections and coming up with completely original responses to these problems. This could be a great way to help you stand out from the crowd, to find an even more efficient solution for an existing problem, or even just take a dull and annoying task and turn it into something that you enjoy.
Now, we want to stress that this doesn't always work. You can't replace anything with anything in any context and expect it to be great. It could be absurd. It could be really dangerous, like you probably wouldn't replace a surgeon with a lumberjack and hope for it to go well. Sometimes the right resource for the job is very clearly defined, and it's the one that you should use. But this way of thinking is just another tool to add to your toolbox.
So you probably won't need to build a Lego house, but perhaps you're feeling like you're missing a few pieces to move forward in your career, or you'd like to add a few pieces to your next assignment.
Identify what it is that you're trying to achieve and take stock of your pieces, the skills, the resources, the people in your life, and know that if you're missing a piece, it doesn't mean that you can't achieve your goal. Just pause and look at your pieces, because we all have a unique set, and maybe there's something in there that you can reimagine or repurpose or apply in a different way.
In doing this, you might come up with a completely original response. You might choose to play with those constraints. You might choose to do something a little bit weird just because you want to. That is okay too, but it won't always work out. Some systems are there for a reason. But if you have an opportunity, give our system a go. And you never know, you might just end up with the most original house on the street.
Thank you.
Thank you.